Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald was written by author JK Rowling and directed by David Yates, and picks up after the events of the first film where the evil Grindelwald has been captured by the Ministry of Magic. Well, Grindelwald escapes in this film, and he seeks to persuade other wizards to join his cause of establishing wizards as the dominant beings on the planet over muggles or no-mages. Newt Scamander finds himself in the middle of this conflict, and he eventually teams up with some familiar faces to put a stop to Grindelwald's evil schemes. As things get progressively more difficult for Newt and his friends, Grindelwald continues to thrive. Alright, so I think I've mentioned a couple times now that I'm not the world's biggest Harry Potter fan. I've always caught a little bit of flack for that, just from friends and others online who absolutely love the universe, and I've always been kind of like whatever with it. I really enjoyed the Deathly Hallows Part 2, and the others I did enjoy but never quite loved. Like, I like them all, but I don't love them all. The very first Fantastic Beasts film I found to be pretty average, nothing too great, nothing too bad either. This time I went into the theater with, pretty much no expectation one way or the other. I walked out a little conflicted because there are some really fun parts to this movie, but narratively it is a total mess. I had a really difficult time trying to follow what was going on in this movie. There's just so much stuff stuffed in here, and almost none of it provides any sort of clarity into the motivations of the characters. You have like a general idea as to what each person wants at times, but with the way the scenes are constructed, it's extremely difficult to just follow what each character is actually trying to accomplish in a given scene. I found myself really frustrated with how little is explained in this narrative, and I was often questioning what the characters were actually doing most of the time. It's almost as if JK Rowling wrote the script as if it was like actually going to be read as like a full-length book rather than a feature film. There's just not enough clarity into what the characters actually are doing, and even where they're going and what their motivations even are. Another problem I had is that it's called The Crimes of Grindelwald, but he commits like hardly any crimes. It's a very frustrating thing to watch because Johnny Depp is just not given a lot to do here. He's supposed to be this big bad villain, but all he really does is like talk to people in a conniving, creepy way and kill a few people in the beginning, and that's really it. I mean, I just found this entire build up to a villain that's supposed to be so highly dangerous, highly villainous, to be a letdown because Johnny Depp is not bad in this role, but it's because he's not given a lot to do with this character due to all the side plots the film has going on. I think with such a major emphasis on his character, with his character being in the title, it's just very disappointing to have a great actor like Johnny Depp be sort of sidelined for a lot of the film, and definitely not, becoming the big baddie that most of us were expecting. I also had some difficulties with the decision making of some of the characters. I think the biggest problem is that the story heads certain directions based on the decisions of the characters, but we don't know enough about what they're doing to justify caring, and we don't really know enough about them as characters to really care all that much either. Eddie Redmayne is still charismatic in the role of Newt Scamander, and his castmates pull their weight as well. I really, really love Jude Law in the role of Dumbledore. He's not in the film that much. He has a couple scenes, but he does really steal the show anytime he shows up. But it's another one of those situations where, they're kind of saving him for the next film or however many films they're going to do after this. And he's great, but he's just not in it that much. But overall, it's just kind of a jumbled mess when it comes to all these character motivations and how much they have going on, and just with the pacing of the scenes and the decisions the characters are making. That said, there are a few things I found myself enjoying with this film. Firstly, it's beautiful to look at. A lot of the cinematography looks really great, especially when they show these beautiful landscapes and cities that make the story feel fantastical. There is a thing they do a few times where they have the characters talk almost into the camera as if it's a point of view shot, and it always feels a bit jarring to me when films do that. And it specifically didn't fit in with the style of this film and how it's shot. The visual effects, though, are also really good, and there is fun and excitement to be found here, like I mentioned, particularly in the tail end of the film. I mean, it's definitely a second installment, so you're not going to get that explosive resolution you may be seeking, but it's still a fun ride nonetheless, with the opening scene where a lot of crazy stuff happens and the final showdown, which a lot of crazy stuff happens. It's just the problem of everything in between this a little bit boring and hard to follow. That's why I'm at a bit of a crossroads here, because I think narratively this film is a mess, and I mostly lay that blame at JK Rowling's script. But I do feel like David Yates did a solid job directing a screenplay that has a lot of issues. There's cute moments, there's some beautiful visuals, and there's a decent amount of fun to be had here. It's just not spread out as well and as cohesive as it should be. Again, it's really frustrating because I feel like there are parts of the film that I really like. Parts of the film that I feel like really hooked me. Someone who's not even a major Harry Potter fan. There's also parts where I see Grindelwald become the villain he should have been, the intimidating badass that, also tricks people into joining his cause in clever ways, and also shows, displays of force when he needs to. There's just so much wrong with the narrative that these characters find themselves taking part in that it actually drowns out the things that are actually making the movie good. It's going to be a tough pill to swallow, especially for Harry Potter fans, But I honestly think, like I said, this one falls on JK Rowling because the script is just convoluted and too difficult to follow and just honestly not well written. Let's take a look at the pros cons list as we wrap up though. For the pros, I thought Eddie Redmayne delivered his usual charm and quirky charisma as Newt Scamander. Jude Law was also great as Dumbledore. The action is good when it does happen, and the movie is beautiful to look at. As for the cons, the script is incredibly convoluted and difficult to follow. Grindelwald isn't nearly as menacing and doesn't get the screen time that he should, and the character motivations are vague and unclear at best. I'm going to give Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald a 6 out of 10 and recommend you pass on this one in theaters. It's not an awful film, but it could have been a lot better had it focused a bit more on the core of its story. It's just got too much going on and it doesn't balance it all well. So did you guys see Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald yet? What did you think of it? And if not, let me know why not. And also let me know your favorite film in the Harry Potter universe. You guys know it's definitely Hollows Part 2 for me. I just feel like that movie delivers the action and excitement and of course the payoff that I was always looking for with these Harry Potter movies. Either way, this is WillFoxification signing off. See you in the next video.